Welcome back, everybody, to the Tespa Collegiate Series, where we just witnessed EPM take down Tufts to move on through to the finals. And now we move across to the northern region for Illinois versus Colorado State. Obviously going to be a fantastic one. And let's just have a look at the north bracket here. These are the 4 teams that will be competing to try and make it to those live finals. Of course, I'm joined by Keenan Excoundrel, my lovely British friend.
Thank you for introducing me.
I got there in the end.
Yeah, Illinois playing Colorado State. They both had wins over Michigan and St. Louis Farm, respectively, in those round of 32s. Remember, if they make it through here, they make it to that round of 8, and obviously that's exactly what everybody wants to achieve. They want to make it to the live finals. They want to be able to put their team on the stage and say we are competing for that massive prize in scholarships, the $160,000 worth.
And there must be something about this Illinois University as well, because they won last year. I know it's not the same players, but maybe there's just a lot of talented Hearthstone individuals within there. As you can see, yes, this is my co-caster, Scoundrel. We've been good friends for quite a while now, haven't we? We're getting there, actually.
Good friends?
I say friends.
I don't know. I think I just cast with you. You're a means to an end.
But how are you finding Unguro? Because we're getting there now. The meta is developing overnight.
You just brushed that off.
God's sake, I tried.
You just brushed that off. I was like, you're not. Yeah, of course, you are one of my best mates. Don't worry, buddy. I'm loving Unguro. Yeah, well, I'm not loving Unguro because I keep losing. But I'm loving Unguro because it's fantastic in the sense that there's so many cool new decks coming around apart from Quest Rogue. All of you players who play Quest Rogue should feel ashamed of yourself. But there's a lot of other good stuff coming out, and obviously there is a nice blend at the moment between control, aggro, mid-range, and that's what we like to see. You're not queuing into 60% Pirate Warrior. You've got a really nice blend of decks on ladder, which opens up your creativity and our creativity and everybody's creativity. That's exactly what we want.
Well, let's have a look at the next match that we will be seeing today. Of course, Illinois versus Colorado State, and it is going to be a Rogue, Warrior, Warlock, and Hunter for Illinois, and then Paladin, Warrior, Rogue, and Shaman, or Shaman, however you want to say it.
I say it both
Colorado.
ways, I'm sorry. I will try to stick to Shaman, just this entire series.
The most interesting thing that's kind of jumping out there is Paladin for me.
We have seen some Paladin over the course of this tournament. It's been a rising popularity, this kind of mid-range buff elemental Paladin that we have sometimes seen. But again, I don't know if any of you who watched pro streamers over the last few days, Tides of Time has been running a mid-range Murloc Paladin, almost with the control aspect towards the end as well. And we obviously have that iteration, which is basically a straight-up aggro Murloc Paladin.
And there are the players for Illinois there. Druvstar, Lonely Link, and Half Stealth, Electrical Engineering, Physics, and Chemical Engineering, respectively. As I said, it's not the same Illinois squad that won last year's competition, the collegiate competition, but perhaps they can keep their strength for their university and keep flying that flag high.
Well, you said about how applicable university degrees can be to Hearthstone. I've got to say, those are some impressive university degrees, as are these. Biomedical Sciences with Rev, Rem, and Barloop on Biology and Physical Therapy, respectively. So, obviously, a lot of talented and intelligent individuals in this particular Hearthstone series, and you can see the Colorado University there all ready to go in this best of 5 versus Illinois.
And they have a very impressive record throughout qualifiers and playoffs as well. They went 7-0 throughout the qualifiers and then 5-1 in that Swiss bracket of playoffs as well. So I think they were on stream a few times, so I'm expecting good things out of this Colorado squad, and we'll see which decks they're banning away as well. I still think it's such a fantastic format that you're banning away one of your own decks, and intriguingly, both Rogues banned away. You've said how much you hate Quest Rogue. Well, they're just getting rid of it off the bat. Interestingly
enough, I actually think the self-ban of Quest Rogue from Colorado is very good, because the one thing that Quest Rogue struggles against is aggro or early board presence. And with a Warlock, a Warrior, and a Hunter on the side of Illinois, that could be Pirate Warrior, aggro, Hunter, and Zoo, all of which Quest Rogue could struggle with. So that's a pretty intelligent self-ban coming from Colorado.
It definitely is, and I guess in this meta at the moment, the only thing you can really be sure of is Quest Rogue. Yes, okay, we've seen Miracle Rogue develop a little bit over the past day. I have lost to it a few times. But generally, Quest Rogue seems to be the most consistent Rogue deck. So they're thinking, okay, they're going to know what we're bringing. So let's just get rid of it as soon as possible.
And actually, that self-ban is reflected on the other side as well, because the Shaman could be a Murloc Shaman that aims to get control-heavy board first. If it's a Murloc Paladin, it will do the same thing. And obviously, with the Warrior still up, that could be Pirate Warrior, all of which Quest Rogue could struggle with.
Well, here we go, kicking things off now with game number 1, and it is going to be Hunter here versus the Paladin, and there is that cheeky little Galaka Crawler just to get rid of those pesky pirates, but there's going to be no pirates, you would think, in this Hunter deck.
You wouldn't imagine so. Having a look at these two mulligans, you get the immediate impression that this is going to be the mid-range, potentially buff Paladin coming out from Colorado. Unsure yet, it could just be a mid-range elemental. Outdoor Peacekeeper does give the sort of indication that it is a more mid-range, maybe leaning towards control-heavy lineup. And Illinois, they've got a lineup there that's, well, I run all of this in my Face Hunter deck, so this could be Face Hunter, or this could stretch towards a more mid-range where you top out at Savannah Jaime. Yeah,
that's the main difference, really, I've seen between the Face and the mid-range, is just having that extra kind of 6 or 5 drop. The Rat Pack would suggest it's more of a mid-range, so they're going to go for the more control variant, but that 1 drop is massive for them. They really want to get something on the board, but unfortunately for them, Firefly for Colorado here is just going to be able to cement such an early board presence.
It does look like they could be running Hot Forms list, or some sort of iteration of Hot Forms list, because it's got the Rat Pack and the Jeweled Macorin, which would maybe, to me, suggest more of a mid-range Hunter. Obviously, like you said, that the trade is going to be favorable for Colorado, having picked up that Firefly early on. And actually, if you look at the hand, they've got a curve that goes quite nicely out as well.
Now they have an option as well here, Illinois. They could coin out the Raptor Hatchling, try and keep some sort of board presence, hope that both minions aren't removed, and then they'll be able to get the value from the Crackling Razormaw, which I'm liking that kind of play. I think it looks very tempting. I guess they're looking at what happens therefore after.
I really like that, Dan, because if you coin this out now, I reckon Colorado will be more tempted to take the value trade to maintain this Firefly on board instead of just dealing with it, and then suddenly you can get a +3 health adapt from Razormaw, and you are laughing.
Just giggling.
Giggling, mate.
Giggling to yourself. And this is, it's not a fantastic turn for Colorado State. As you said, they've got a choice. Do they take value? They're then going to play, what, Galactic Crawler? You're not going to get any value off that because, of course, there is no pirate package.
It's a River Croc list, right? I mean, 2 mana, it's like a standard 2 mana drop. I mean, it's a 2 mana drop with no effect. It's not bad at all to just drop on curve if you don't expect to see any pirates, and I think that's perfectly fine.
We've seen that River Croc appear far too many times over the course of the past 2 days.
Just in case anyone didn't know what the most classic of classic card was, River Croc list over there on the right-hand side of the screen, everybody.
Well, there we go. Razormaw is going to get its value. Adapt a Friendly Beast, and you have some good choices there as well. +3 health is always going to help you trade out here. Volcanic Might is perhaps something they might consider too.
I think there are 2 options here. You either take the +3 health and maybe take out the 1/1 in a super value trade, or you take Volcanic Might and trade into the Galactic Crawler, both of which achieve some measure of board control. Taking out the Galactic Crawler could be fine, because realistically you're going to lose one of your minions next turn either way. It'll either be the Galactic Crawler, or it'll either be your 1-drop, or you'll end up losing the Razormaw, because Galactic Crawler will trade into that. So it's just depending on what they want to achieve here. By taking the 3 health and taking a value trade, they force Colorado to make the decision. If they take the 1/1 and trade in, then it maintains the... Oh, they're going to take the value trade with the 1/1. Okay. That means the Galactic Crawler is going to die either way, whichever it trades into.
So the decision is going to have to be made now. Colorado, which trade do they go through? And in terms of what to play afterwards, I mean, Outdoor Peacekeeper, relatively useless. I guess they could get a value trade if they wanted to use the Peacekeeper here. That's something that they might consider. Absolutely.
Peacekeeper could keep their Galactic Crawler on board. They also have Wicker Spark Bumber. I can never remember the name.
Wicker Spark what?
I don't know, mate. Wicker Flame.
Wicker Flame Burn Bristle. There we go. Thank you, production.
You had the nice thing come from the side of the screen. I had no idea what I was going to say. But they do take the trade and actually just end up playing a 1/1 and a 1/2 here, leaving those 3 drops for later on. Remember, they don't know whether this is mid-range yet, and the biggest tool against a mid-range Hunter is the Aldor Peacekeeper. Reducing Savannah Jaime to 1 attack feels really good, man.
Yeah, and I'm wondering whether Face Hunter may have been better for this particular matchup. Of course, you're not going to bring something expecting to be facing off against Paladin, but suddenly these taunts are going to start to drop down. These elementals are going to become a big problem for Illinois, and they're going to struggle to get past them. They may have to use something like tracking just to search for a little bit of burst damage to try and get through these really annoying and pesky minions.
Interestingly enough, tracking is not something I would have considered to run in my mid-range Hunter list. I usually run tracking in something a little bit more aggro-orientated, because you're looking for lethal with tracking most of the time. You use it to cycle bad cards out the way so you get to your kill commands or your more threatening cards. Or you just look for it to search for something like a kill command. But we're still unsure. Like we said, the Jeweled Macaw maybe lends towards a more mid-range orientated deck because you can just probably include better 1-drops if you're looking to have an immediate impact. But they're just going to drop the 4-mana Houndmaster, which was the obvious turn here. You've got 4 mana, you've got Houndmaster, you've got a Beast on board, and suddenly with this Rat Pack, you're going to generate 4 rats as well.
You are, but they have to pass their turn. Not going to be able to trade in, of course, because of that Divine Shield. True Silver off the top as well, so that's going to be a very effective trade if they wanted to use it. But Outdoor Peacekeeper is a perfect response to the Houndmaster. You were talking about getting all those rats on board. Well, it's not going to happen anymore.
Yeah, ripping pepperonis, rats. It's just one. That feels pretty bad for Illinois. And again, the board looking firmly in control of Colorado, just going as wide as possible, because Hunter, apart from Unleash the Hounds, okay.
Cat trick as well.
Yeah, that's the face I made as well, Dan. This is, we haven't seen too many secrets being run by Hunters in sort of the majority of the list. But Secret Hunter has been having some success. I've seen a lot of players post their Secret Hunter lists to Twitter. I know Gale Strom, one of our casters, was talking a lot about how he thought Secret Hunter was definitely up there on his tier lists over sort of the release of Ungoro. So, I mean, this is going to be interesting. I haven't seen this list yet in competitive. I haven't actually even run into a Secret Hunter on ladder, and I've played a lot of games since Ungoro got released. So, interesting to see how this one plays out. But the major issue here, Dan, is it's a Hunter that's behind on board, and that's never easy to come back from.
It isn't, but they do have the Chittering Tunneler new card there. It's actually a Warlock card. You will discover a spell, and you deal that much damage to your hero as well. So, of course, you don't want to get anything too crazy, but you might be able to find something that is going to be able to deal with this board.
Explosive Shot, that could be pretty good.
Yeah.
I know you're not really bothered about your life total when you're playing up against a Paladin. You're just trying to clamor back some form of control. Plenty of options, even Grievous Bite. You know, that could be pretty solid, clears up some of the 1/1s. You can deal with a pesky 2 health minion in the main turn as well. So lots of options you would have to say here if they choose to play that particular minion. And given that they don't really have any minions in hand apart from a Houndmaster, that's not a half bad play going into this turn.
Yeah, it's going to depend on what they get off the top here, as their decision will be made. And to be honest, it's still not looking particularly great. I mean, Houndmaster later, when you've got a Beast on board, is great, but I mean, as just a 4/3 body is pretty awful, so they're going to continue just to search for more, try and find a little bit more of, or synergy, to be honest, with this hand.
Absolutely. Eaglehorn was sort of screaming to me because they had Cat Trick in hand. Eaglehorn and then using the Cat Trick as well. You're playing up against a class that doesn't really use many spells, though, so you're not going to get the likelihood of having to sort of face against some sort of spell from the Paladin. Realistically, in this particular list, you would expect the most spells that they run to be Equality and Consecrate. That might be the only spells that this Paladin runs in their entire deck. And that's a Nesting Rock in hand as well. Remember, it's only really going to get value if you get the 2 other minions on board. But if you just want to slam a 4/7 body on board for 5 mana, this actually could make some good trades with the board. You know, you're going to lose that Outer Peacekeeper into the True Silver, but at least you're getting rid of some threats. But I think this is the better play because you can do it yourself without having to waste the body of the Nesting Rock.
Not going for the, well, they're just waiting for that value for the Nesting Rock, of course. Now, Colorado State, I mean, this is a very interesting deck that I'm seeing. There's a lot of different elements to it, and that's not a play on words. Yes, they've got elementals, but there's also hand buffs to it as well to work with. And to be honest, this Hunter, if it can't regain board control, it's really going to struggle, because I would imagine there is quite a bit of healing as well in this. I mean, just from the Wicker Flame in general, that's a little bit of a healing boost. You've, of course, got the True Silver Champion as well. So a lot to do for Illinois here, as they are quite far behind on board.
Noble Sacrifice will proc Cat Trick, though. So that is a spell that can proc Cat Trick for Illinois. So they won't be sat on that secret for the whole host of the game. It is going to be Wicker Flame coming down here. And they're going to go for Chittering Tunneler now, despite having the Savannah Highmane in hand. They get the choice of Bestial Wrath, Dynamancy, Arcane Shot. I don't think any of those scream to me a fantastic pickup here, but what Arcane Shot could do right now is lock into the Galaka Crawler on board. But I think that could be something for the future, because the Houndmaster is just going to come down to produce a 5/5 taunt.
Of course, that Blaze Caller still sat there buffed, but it can't be used for its battle cry because an elemental wasn't played last turn. Those stars that are on the card, of course, just because of the buff from the +1/1. And now Servant of Kalamos as well still can't be played. So yes, they've gone for this elemental package, but because they're not running full elemental package, because they've got so much variety in it, they're really struggling to be able to play this.
Yeah, but at this point, would you just slam a 7-mana 7/7 because it's been buffed? I mean, if you're trying to put pressure, I think once they realize that it's not freezing trap, you know, once they sort of maybe potentially trade into this 5/5,
I think you have to.
I think you just slam the 7-mana 7/7. Yeah, you lose the 5 damage, but realistically, you have complete control of the board right now. You're not necessarily needing that. I like to use like you would a Fire Elemental in a Shaman deck. And look at this, they're actually playing around Unleash the Hounds as well. Looks like they're actually going to say we don't need the value from Servant of Kalamos. We're actually just going to straight up play him so that we can get the potential push for lethal next turn. I don't think it'll be lethal. I'll have to have a look at how much damage they've got on board. Oh, it is lethal. It will be lethal. It'll be exactly lethal if one of these minions aren't cleaned up. So they played for that 2-turn lethal with the Blaze Cooler.
And I love that they didn't play Noble Sacrifice as well. They worked out it wasn't freezing trap, it's not explosive trap, so they had a little think, okay, it could be cat trick. Let's not allow them any sort of extra damage. Arcane Shot will come through just to try and get rid of this Wicker Flame. But as you said, now with the extra damage coming through from the Blaze Cooler with his Battle Cry, that is going to be game over unless they're worried about any crazy secrets. But we know that Catrix is the one there. So that's going to be game 1 going to Colorado. And they'll feel very good about winning with Paladin, because Paladin's been a little bit all over the place, especially since the last expansion and now coming into it. But people are finding things that work.
This mid-range buff elemental paladin seems to be a sort of a very popular archetype that has been springing up on the ladder. We saw some success with it yesterday. We saw a bit of success with it today, obviously, with it just picking up its win there. Like you said, that was a bit more of an interesting list because the Hydrologists were included. Now, Hydrologist, a card that I think remains useful in a lot of paladin decks. There are 5 secrets right now, of which Noble Sacrifice and Getaway Kodo seem to be the go-tos from those secrets. But there's also the Repentance, which is good against Taunt Warriors. So there's lots of options. It gives you a lot of tech-ins to potentially beat some of the matchups that you might not be particularly favoured.
Let's have a closer look at that deck. I believe we can show you guys at home. These are some of the different inclusions of it. And as you were talking about the Hydrologist there, of course, you've got the Elemental package as well. Galaka Crawler to deal with the Pirates. A very interesting list, and perhaps it's something that people will start to try, and I love that it's called Buffer Mental. I was going to say we need to come up with some better name, and Buffer Mental, that's Bloomin' Brilliant.
Bloomin' Brilliant,
Bloomin'
mate.
Brilliant.
And also, interestingly, they're including 1 copy of Argent Protector. So they're looking for major value trades on the board early on, or even just trading up later in the game. Obviously, Argent Protector retains some value in the trading game as the game progresses. But obviously, lots of elements in that deck. We just felt that there wasn't enough synergy in terms of the elementals, but in what they've included, if they'd drawn things like Tar Creeper, if they had more of their elementals come through early on, maybe they just got a particularly bad hand in terms of the scaling up elemental curve that we often see the elemental decks run with. So there's lots of key themes in there, and the one issue that you will always have against buff Paladin and in Paladins in general is if you lose control of the board, they all just keep slamming big minions that have been buffed up from hand, and you can never really catch up. And a Hunter that is behind on board is a very sad Rexar indeed.
It definitely is, and that's why I was saying that maybe a Face Hunter might have worked out a little bit better, because they could have just kind of got up more steam and got ahead. Instead, they were just behind for so long and allowed control. But we will move into game number 2 now. As you can see, Colorado, they've got rid of their Paladin, they've got the win. Now they have Warrior and Shaman to try and get a victory with. On the other side for Illinois, still everything left for them. They need to get plenty of wins. And look at all of that Hearthstone merch as well on the side of Illinois. Just stroking their pillows and their mini death wings as well.
They must have been to a Tespa Live Finals recently, picked up a $10 gift card and spent it in the Blizzard store. Those guys know what's up.
They definitely know what's up. And they want to be able to go to another one as well, but they need to turn this series around. It is going to be the Quest Warrior for Colorado. And on the other side, we're going to see just that typical Pirate Warrior for Illinois.
This is an interesting matchup. If you can't land some of your early taunts, you can really just end up losing the game outright against the Pirate Warrior, as you would expect in most Pirate Warrior matchups. But if you keep things like Stonehill Defender and you curve out nicely and start slamming 4-mana and 5-mana taunts, suddenly the Pirate Warrior hits turn 5, turn 6, has to get through all of those pesky taunt minions, can't go face, and that can be an issue for them. So I think it just depends, and you can see they're even going to keep Stonehill Defender because that 3 mana, even if it's just a 1/4 taunt, can be incredibly useful. They pick up another 2 cards good in this matchup. Ravaging Ghoul especially, and Brawl for those absolute Hail Mary situations.
Yeah, Brawl is definitely good to have, but sometimes it can be just a bit of a panic button. We've seen it being used when there's just 3 minions on board. 3 minions that aren't necessarily scary, but they're just generating so much damage turn after turn that you have to do something about them. There is another taunt as well. Of course, Stonehill Defender will be the first one to be played, and it will generate even more taunts for Colorado, so that's very important for them to get in their opening hand.
Absolutely, and you can look at this curve coming out from Illinois. They've got the Bloodsail Raider here, and then they've got the follow-up of the South Sea Captain 2. This feels like it probably, for Colorado State, is looking like a coin Ravaging Ghoul play. They also have the coin Tar Creeper, the lots of options, and the coin Stonehill Defender, but I think Stonehill Defender is definitely last on their list. They will clean up those 2 South Sea Deckhand and also patches with that Ravaging Ghoul, and then leave Illinois to make a response.
So South Sea Captain is not going to generate too much value here. Decision, do you trade? Personally, I quite like the trade to keep the South Sea Captain alive, just in case you generate any other more pirates, just to get value out of them. The trade comes through, and now Colorado will probably dump that Tar Creeper right on the board.
This is not looking bad for Colorado whatsoever. Look at this now. They've got Tar Creeper into Bloodhoof Brave, into Stonehill Defender if they need another taunt to back them up. They can probably curve out at this point to Curator. They're actually sitting in a pretty solid position. That Arcanite Reaper might end up having to go into taunts rather than face, and that'll be a real issue, you'd think, for Illinois.
Inzoth's first mate will actually
help them clear.
Clear this, yes. Of course, with the South Sea Captain, they'll be able to generate him up to 4 attack and then use the Inzoth's first mate with their face to trade in. So a really important pickup that they're able to deal with these taunts early, just so they can keep the board presence and just swap this off the board nice and easy.
Yeah, that's a threatening board now for Illinois. Kind of out of nowhere, given how many answers that Colorado had. Another Ravaging Ghoul comes through. They have got the options. Ravaging Ghoul would clean up 1 South Sea Captain, but it would still leave a 3-2 and a 2-1 on board, I believe. So it might not be the most important play to make here. I definitely think slamming Bloodhoof Brave could be good, because then you might find yourself in a position where Ravaging Ghoul the next turn could help you clear up a little bit more.
Yeah, Ravaging Ghoul seems like a good option just to get rid of one of these South Sea Captains.
Yeah.
But then they will still be able to trade effectively with their weapon and Inzoth's first mate, it being a 2-2 and a 1 from their hand as well. So they may opt for something like a Bloodhoof Brave. I think either feels pretty sloppy, to be honest.
Given the state of the board, Bloodhoof Brave doesn't feel great, because you know that it's likely going to have a poor trade in your favor. But it's mana efficient, and you don't get a huge amount of value out of Ravaging Ghoul other than trying to contest the board with it. You do get one of those South Sea Captains. Those are the 2 major options that Colorado will be considering. Ravaging Ghoul looks like it's where they are putting their money. What it will allow them to do is clean up potentially the Inzoth's first mate and take a weapon hit and leave 1 South Sea Captain on deck afterwards.
On deck. I like that.
Actually,
was that intentional?
Yeah, maybe. Actually, it doesn't even deal damage to them, so it's a 3-3 and a 2-2. But what this should do is allow him to at least trade off the Inzoth's first mate and a weapon charge.
Yep, or they have the option just to Mortal Strike it if they want to keep a little bit of board presence.
I like that as well, Dan. I do.
Just using the Mortal Strike. I mean, I guess you could consider keeping the Mortal Strike, because later on you may need that damage to get past taunts.
Sure.
For example, if you manage to get them down to 6 and then they proc you at 12 health, that could be really important in this matchup.
This is actually a tough turn, because you could equip Arcanite Reaper, but you're likely going to lose your South Sea Captain if you do and don't trade, and you don't really want to send Arcanite Reaper into a 3-3 Ravaging Ghoul. You could obviously make the play that we said, trading in your Inzoth's first mate and slamming in your weapon, and then you have the option of just equipping Arcanite Reaper, but then that becomes a little bit susceptible to an acidic Swamp Ooze, and if you don't know what Colorado State's deck list is like, that could be difficult. They're going to make that Mortal Strike play to maintain board tempo and keep slamming into face and play another Inzoth's first mate.
Yeah, just get a fresh new Rusty Hook. I don't know if I want a fresh Rusty Hook, to be honest. Either way, it's still pretty rusty. On the other side now for Colorado, they're still staring at a pretty ugly board. I mean, Bloodhoof Brave, yes, okay. Actually, there has to be a lot of trading coming out from Illinois if they do dump that one on the board, but Stonehill Defender looks like the option. I
actually like that, because it allows them to equip Fiery War Axe afterwards and then trade into the South Sea Captain, leaving just 2 1-1s on board. And realistically, given what you see directly for Illinois, they don't have a direct answer to get through, and also the Inzoth's first mates die. Obviously, we know there's an Arcanite Reaper in hand, but it feels bad, man, to use an Arcanite Reaper on a Stonehill defenders. So obviously, this is actually a pretty solid play in my opinion.
Yep, and then now you have the choice of Tarlord or Ali Armor Smith. Ali Armor Smith, of course, will generate a little bit more armor, so I can completely agree with that decision. And as you quite rightly said, Kinnan, they're going to use the weapon just to try and eliminate some of this board from Illinois. And suddenly, Illinois are now staring at a board that they've got to deal with. And this is what happens when you play this Pirate Warrior against Quest Warrior, to be honest. If they are able to generate taunt after taunt, it does become exceedingly frustrating.
Absolutely. That will be the Arcanite Reaper. It was the only real answer they had to get through a 1/4, basically Silverback Guardian. And you can see here, oh, Whirlwind into Ali Armor Smith. That seems like a really nice answer. You clean up everything on board. Yes, you might generate a little less armor from Ali Armor Smith, but getting rid of that board finally for Pirate Warrior and slamming a taunt, that is exactly where you want to be.
100%. Now, you're not going to get any sort of cultist shenanigans coming through. Leroy Jenkins off the top for Illinois as well, so that it's more burst damage, but it's burst damage that they can't get through just the sheer amount of taunts. And yep, Curator next if they want it. They've got Bloodhoof Brave as well. Honestly, I mean, I don't like to call a game early because it seems like every time I call a game early, it actually gets flipped on its head, but I'm struggling to see a way for Illinois to get back into this.
It will be tough. I think it's definitely going to be tough because we can see that Colorado has got taunt after taunt after taunt at this point. You know, they've got at least 2 turns where they have taunts guaranteed. We know that Curator is going to draw probably one of their Beast taunts and the Obsidian Drake, so they'll get a big 4/8 taunt that deals 2 damage to all minions. So there's a lot of answers and options right now for Colorado State, and I feel like Illinois now don't have the direct damage because they've used 1 Mortal Strike. There's no way they can pull off a cheeky double Mortal Strike for 12 damage if they ever got Colorado down to that life total. This looks like a game that's now firmly in control of this taunt Quest Warrior for Colorado.
Because realistically, they play Curator. Illinois, at the moment, their only option, you Leroy Jenkins into the Curator. You then spawn more minions for your opponent. You hope that you draw, I don't know, maybe another weapon. But then we can see even more taunts for Colorado. And more. And another one. Yeah, as this is game over.
Primordial
and
Drake,
I think Illinois will know that this is over as well, to be honest.
Yeah.
Especially, it depends what they get now. An upgrade, that pretty much just kills it off completely. And they will have to just resign to a 2-0 deficit at the moment.
I think that's where we're heading, to be honest, Dan. You could Leroy into the Curator, but then you still have to trade off your you still have to trade off your Frothing Berserker into the Ali Armor Smith, and you know that a Primordial Drake has just been drawn, so that's 2 health that's just going to get immediately ripped from that taunt coming through. They may have to play to that only option that they've got, but this is it doesn't feel great to have to do this.
So I guess I'm thinking, was there anything that could have gone differently for Illinois? I'm just looking at the sheer amount of taunts that Colorado were able to put out, one after one, and becoming increasingly frustrating. I mean, yes, okay, now they've been able to generate quite a large Frothing Berserker here. We can see that there is a way to deal with it from Colorado using the Drake. And that was Colorado's decision. They said, actually, we don't want to trade into the Drake. They could have used their weapon early on. They could have got rid of it, but they didn't want to take that extra damage because they know full well by drawing with the Curator, they would have definitely got this Drake.
Absolutely. I mean, I think Illinois had no, I guess, shadow of a doubt that that was definitely a card that was pulled from Curator. You run Curator specifically to draw that from your deck so that you have 7 mana Curator into 8 mana Primordial Drake if you need it, obviously. So it gives you a guaranteed 7/8 curve. That was really good. That was you know, I think what they did specifically quite well there, Dan, was the fact that they chose to keep the Stonehill Defender earlier on, so they have the 3 mana 1/4 taunt, and they got the Tar Creeper early on too. They had a really nice curve. They had the Ravaging Ghoul, so important at dealing with the 1 mana 1-drops and patches. They just had consistent answers, and if you consistently answer a Pirate Warrior and throw taunts down, it's kind of almost GG's.
Everything to do now for Illinois as they are 2-0 down, and it's just the Shaman left for Colorado, and all they need is that one victory with Shaman to make it to the live finals. And if you said that a couple of weeks ago, well, I take us months ago, in fact, I mean, Shaman has absolutely dominated the meta of Hearthstone for quite some time now. And it seems like in Ungoro it is still fantastic. We've seen a couple of variants today. We saw like a Face Shaman coming through, but of course that Elemental Shaman has proved fantastic as well.
Yeah, I don't know if we can truly say whether Shaman sits at this kind of tier level that it did previously. I don't think anyone really knows the actual fully formed tier list for Ungoro just yet. But obviously, Shaman still has very powerful cards. We've seen Elemental Shaman have a lot of success. Murloc Quest Shaman has seen some success on ladder, although maybe not as, I guess, reliable in a competitive setting. Good for ladder potentially, but it is going to be Elemental Shaman with Thing from Below as well. I was talking to one of my friends who's a player from the UK, and he said there's about 45 cards that you can fit into an Elemental Shaman deck. It's just about what you choose specifically and what your game plan generally looks to be.
Well, we'll see how the mid-range Hunter fares up against this Elemental Shaman, which has been generating a lot of interest across the cyber web as of late.
How old are you, Dan?
You don't want to know. Tar Creeper will be kept in hand from the Mulligan. And now Illinois, they're just having a little bit of a discussion here. They don't really know what they want to keep. It's not the best hand. I'd be half tempted to throw everything away here.
Yeah, I don't think... the only temptation I might have is to keep the Infested Wolf and Howlmaster because I have the coin. But realistically, you want a 1-drop, you want a 2-drop. You need to realistically get rid of all of this. Actually, even just going to keep the Direwolf Alpha just to guarantee a 2-drop of some sort.
Yeah, just in case anything crazy came out, like they pulled both Savannah High Mains. They just wanted to make sure they had a 2-drop to work with. And they might have to work with it. They might have to coin it out, because I'm just looking at their hand. You wouldn't really want to coin out the Razormaw because you want to get the value off of it.
You could coin out the Kindly Grandmother, though. Which,
oh, yeah.
Yeah. So that feels a little bit better to coin out on turn 1.
So much better.
Yeah, they have got the option to just go straight out and coin it up. Given their hand, I like that. Even though you've got the Jeweled Macaw, it's much nicer to get something like a Kindly Grandmother down, so that even if there is an answer, you can trade in and adapt, or you can just adapt straight up, and you can end up with a 4-1 on board as well, turn 2, because of how good Razormaw is as a card.
Yeah, and there's no answers as well for Colorado. Of course, they can just totem up, and we saw that totem will get a lot of value later on in case they want to go for that late game and the long game. And I guess a long game against a mid-range Hunter, I'm really wondering who has the advantage there, because there are some really big threats from the Hunter, but of course we know there are bigger threats and also board clears from the Elemental Shaman.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the one thing that you'll need to keep your eye on is how quickly Colorado can actually establish a board state. I think that's going to be one of their major concerns. They need to establish a board state against this mid-range Hunter as quickly as possible. If they end up getting behind and the Hunter gets control, that's where things will start to rocket out of control for Illinois, and they should be able to close out the game just by having superior sticky boards. You know, they've got the Rat Pack, they've got the Kindly Grandmother. And this Adapt and Jeweled Macaw could give them a good turn 3 here too, because if you can pick up a +3 attack, especially onto your Kindly Grandmother, goodbye Tar Creeper.
Yeah, I like that they didn't panic and use the Razormaw a little bit early. They're instead waiting. They want to get real value off of it, and they still don't think that this is the turn to use that value either. They're saying, okay, a 1-5, we'll just build an even bigger board.
It's risky, though, because look at, Colorado. They've got things like the Maelstrom Portal. They've got things like the Lightning Storm. There's a lot of good answers here right now for Colorado. And actually, Illinois could potentially get punished by this particular line of play. Obviously, the Adapt is a little bit more risky, but maybe you need to take risks to reap rewards. Looks like they've just played the Phoenix, which does basically give a big battle cry of deal 2 damage, and it's a 3/3 body, so
that's the most interesting inclusion I've seen so far, actually, just looking at this deck list from Colorado, because I've not seen that included in the variants that have been popular as of late, so it may be a decision from them. As you said, you know a few people that say there are plenty of cards that you can include in this deck, and it's just how you feel and how the kind of tempo you're going for.
Yeah, absolutely, and what this does is it does give you a solid turn 4 Elemental, which can play into multiple things. You can use it in place of the Warden, you can use, or the Shaper, you can use it in place to get a guaranteed Servant of Kalimos proc, which we're seeing here. But look at the options that Colorado State have right now. They could Maelstrom Portal after sort of going into the Rat Pack and then sort of guaranteeing some clear of the board here. They could Lightning Storm and Maelstrom Portal. Seems a little bit overkill though, but obviously they have that option. I think they've got a good ways to start getting control back here. I think it's one of the main things that they will be looking to do. It's just how they want to go about doing this. And it looks like it's going to be definitely Maelstrom Portal after this, and they're going to use the Mana Tide Totem to start generating cards back into hand.
lots of board clear available for Colorado, and I think that's what's important and what might actually win them the game against Illinois here. Because Illinois once again find themselves a little bit behind on board. Yes, okay, they've got the Razormaw to try and get some value out. They're not going to get the value out of the Nesting Rock because they don't have the 2 minions, and they can't proc it this turn. They want to be setting this up so they can get value out of the Nesting Rock. It seems like quite a clunky card to sit in your hand if you're not getting the value out of it game after game.
Yeah, I think it's a win more card in my opinion. There's a lot of cards in Hearthstone that I count as win more, which is like if you're already winning, it helps you win even harder. And I definitely feel like Nesting Rock kind of sits in that category. You didn't see the Lightning Storm last turn, by the way, because obviously the Fire Elemental on turn 6 is such a powerful play for Colorado. It will allow them to answer some of this board. Obviously gives them a nice trade into whatever they choose, really. Obviously, it could go into the Infested Wolf if you really wanted to set up for a Lightning Storm later in the next few turns, or it could go into the Kindly Grandmother just to maintain some sort of presence. They might even Lightning Storm this turn with a Mana Tide, which looks like they're going to go for that play.
Seems like a really strong play. Just go for Lightning Storm as well. Just, again, shutting down any sort of momentum coming out from Illinois. And we're looking at that hand, and I'm thinking, what on earth are you going to play? They got Slithered Swarmer, of course, from the Macaw. That's going to do pretty much nothing because you don't have a weapon to allow it to attack. Okay, yes, it's a body, but it's a body that's just going to sit there and be ignored.
Exactly. It's a body that you could potentially run with Houndmaster to give you a taunt on board, kind of acting almost like an Ancient Watcher or a humongous Razor Leaf. But again, it's not that great for Hunter. We talked about why it's so important to maintain control of Hunter's boards. You need to be essentially putting pressure on them consistently. And what that pressure will allow you to do is put Hunter in a position where they are constantly trying to fight for board, never getting damage to face, never synergizing with their hero power as well. And if you get to a mid-range Hunter to a point where they are having to use their spells and their minions just to contest their board state, that's where Hunter falls down. So that's why you saw that Lightning Storm come out last turn, because it's Colorado sending a question over to Illinois saying, we have got answers. Have you got anything to contest us?
Firefly will come down just to get an elemental generated in case they want to play the Servant next turn, of course. But apart from that, little to work with. But fortunately, they're up against a board of Illinois that just really hasn't been able to generate any sort of a real threat, to be honest. They have another Lightning Storm to fall back on as well, so they can just continue just to play an easy game here. They can just sit back, wait, allow Illinois to put as much as they want on the board, and they have so much removal to use. I mean, Hex as well. It's just going to be really difficult for Illinois to do anything here.
And we just saw a thing from below drawn for Colorado. That's going to be huge next turn. We'll have to keep an eye on that. Finally, Nesting Rock will get some value. If they want to run with it, they can obviously use the Crackling Razormaw and the Nesting Rock, and suddenly things looking a little bit better in this situation for Illinois right now.
1/1 Haunted Creeper?
I think 1/1 Haunted Creeper seems pretty good. I think they're using it on the Kindly Grandmother, so they're going to get a 3/2 and 2 1/1s off the back of that. And I think that's perfectly acceptable. There is that big taunt. There is an answer we can see in Colorado, but finally going to get some value out of Nesting Rock, and that provides a big body that the Shaman is going to have to get through.
So they do have the option to Hex this, of course, the Nesting Rock, just to get rid of it. It is a big body that they should probably think about dealing with. But it's a question, do they play the Servant this turn? They don't have an Elemental to generate it for next turn otherwise. Of course, they've got the Fire Elemental, but that won't work with the mana with the Hex. So it's something they need to consider. Are we more worried about getting rid of the whole board, or are we just thinking about our kind of late game and by just keep generating these Elementals?
Are you threatened right now? If you look at the Hunter's board and you know that you can deal with the 4/7, are you threatened right now? Do you need to sort of go into a knee-jerk reaction, or can you play a longer game? You have got 6 cards in hand right now. The Hunter has got 2, one of which he pulled from a Jeweled Macaw. It looks like they are a little bit threatened, but that, again, what this is doing and allowing them to do is control the board of the Hunter. And again, if the Hunter runs out of ways to get on board, runs out of ways to contest board, they are not in a great position. I mean, look at Illinois' hand. It is just dud after dud after dud. And I think this is almost, again, Colorado taking the game.
Yep, I'm struggling to see anything else. They're going to use tracking to see if they can find any sort of answers. Tundra Rhino, Highmane, Animal Companion. Highmane, of course, a really good pickup just to jam onto this board to try and regain some sort of board presence. But still, just plenty of ways to deal with it from Colorado as well. There's so many answers in their hand. and they've just been able to get so far ahead in this game.
I mean, they don't even trade into it, I don't think. I don't even think they need to, because obviously the 2-2s on board, they don't have anything right now to get those dealt with. So you just jam, I guess, maybe a Hot Spring Guardian, you can put your Flame Tongue down. The Hunter doesn't have wide board clear. You know, they've got Unleash the Hounds, and that's pretty much it. There's not really much else apart from Explosive Trap and Unleash the Hounds that's going to deal with the wide board. So you can just jam all of your damage, start going face, and sort of say thank you. They actually are going to deal with this completely. They're taking the super safe option here, and probably just going to heal up the taunt with the Hot Spring Guardian and then just hero power afterwards.
Yeah, I think from below it's just going to go back up. And you're right, they're not taking any risks. Why should they? They're in such a commanding position. If they win this game, they go to the live finals. So yeah. This is just playing nice and easy, and they can just kick back, put their feet up now in this position. And when you see the Slither Swarmer come down, you're kind of just laughing, to be honest.
And you can see they've got smiles on their faces. They know that they're in a really good position here.
Wind Fury would be great.
If they had a weapon.
Oh, wait.
Again, you might sort of question exactly what happened and why they chose to take that really safe route. Well, in this particular situation, and he actually could concede, bloody hell.
Yep, they know that they are down and out. It's going to be Colorado moving forward to the finals, so congratulations to those guys. You can see, very happy about it. High fives, hand slaps coming round. And you were making a little bit of a point there. You were just saying that, yes, they took a very risky play, but
that's the safe route,
safe route. But why make any risks, to be honest?
Exactly, and you know, you look at it that way. They were consistently making sure they had complete control of the board. That's obviously, we've talked about it time and time again. The main thing to do when you're playing up against a mid-range hunter, especially. I guess they were saying we don't want to see a Houndmaster coming down next turn. That could ruin our day. We don't have another Hex to deal with this high main, and we actually have the tools to deal with it right there, right then. So perfectly acceptable. Gives them that direct line all the way to the live championships, and it is a 3-0 win for Colorado over our previous winners. Illinois not going to make it to 2 years in a row for them at the Tespa Live Championships.
Well, let's have a little chat with Colorado and see how they're feeling after that victory. Congratulations, guys. Of course, a magnificent 3-0 win. I mean, that was very comfortable. Were you expecting it to perhaps be a little bit closer?
Yeah, probably. I was really worried about the Warrior deck, but it came through, and we're there, and it's just blissful.
You guys looked really happy. And talking about that Warrior deck, I think you played it really well. The Mulligan worked out really nicely for you guys. On ladder, I'm assuming you've played a lot of Pirate Warrior when you've been testing that deck. How have you actually found that matchup to be outside of a competitive setting on the ladder?
Well, I was going to say, a lot of people will pitch the quest. I mean, if you have like 3-drops, it's pretty easy to just kind of roll them over. There's a lot of 3-drops in the deck that are good. You got Tar Creepers, you got the Stonehill Defenders. So
our Mulligan really kind of set it up and made it where I think it was comfortable to keep the quest.
As far as the question, I did practice it before because, you know, we only had limited time to practice, and I had like 3 or 4 to 0 against Pirate Warrior. And then last night I was trying to get some last minute practice in, and it went like 0-3 against Pirate Warrior. So then I started getting really upset, and I was just like, I don't know what's going on anymore. But it worked out, so here we are.
Well, finally, then, that Paladin deck as well. I mean, that seemed pretty juicy. Was that inspiration from yourselves, or did you take that from any sort of websites and just tweak it a little bit?
I mean, I can't take full credit. I would like to watch streams and stuff like that. I think I actually picked that one up from Calento and kind of tweaked it myself just a little bit. But the idea was there with the, you know, get lots of elementals in your hand with the Igneous and the Fireflies, and you just buff them up with Grimy Goons, and you just curve out so well.
Well, congratulations again, guys. And you can now look forward, and you can start to party a little bit as you'll be heading towards those live finals. So we'll see you then.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, you.
Well, they seem pretty pumped. They seem to know exactly what they want, and they had a lot of interesting decks. I think that's what's fantastic. They weren't the kind of meta decks that we've already seen already, just something a little bit new and fresh.
I actually think they got off to a really good start with the self-ban. They banned their own rogue quest, which would have struggled, you would think, against both the Pirate Warrior and that mid-range hunter, and then they somehow brought it out in really well-played games. I mean, obviously, that Pirate Warrior, they mulliganed really nicely in that Taunt Warrior deck list, so yeah, they played it really well.
Let's have a look at the bracket for today then and see well, exactly that one's played out. Of course, Colorado, they move through and they will be at those live finals, but later on we'll see who's going to win out of Queens U and Shawnee to join them at those live finals. That's an interesting name, Shawnee. I like that. It reminds me of a friend from school. But yes, that has been an absolutely fantastic victory, to be honest. And as I said previously, they'll be moving forward to the live finals, and you can move forward to the live finals as well. Just head on down to the link below, compete.tespa.org/Hearthstone. Of course, it's going to be a fantastic event. I believe it's $12 for a single day entry and then $20 for the weekend. And there's a lot of fun and activities, isn't there?
Yeah, it's a big community feel event. We've got long tables. You guys come and chill at them, play Hearthstone while you watch the tournament. There are compete tournaments going on as well. You can play against devs. Again, if you turn up, you get the Dalaran card back. You get $10 credit for the Blizzard store to get t-shirts, plushies, or whatever else you'd like. So honestly, really great opportunity. It's going to be so much fun. Make sure if you're in the area to go and check it out.
I believe we have a tweet as well from one of you guys at home. Van Asmo says, how did you become a Hearthstone tournament caster?
You're throwing it over to me first.
I'll let you go there first.
I've actually casted MOBAs in general for probably 4 years now. I was a doctor, you know, like we talked about yesterday. I gave it up to go and do some full-time esports, you know, got a lot of support from my family and stuff. And I branched into multiple other games. I loved playing Hearthstone. I thought I'd give it a go at casting. And here we are. Got through from the how you can cast, so you think you can cast video. I cast with, obviously, my good friend Dan Gaskin here. And this is where we are right now. Yeah,
we submitted a video together. Blizzard decided that we'd impress them, and they brought us here. I have a background of FPS casting as well, so we're happy. We're enjoying our Hearthstone time. And remember, guys, if you want to get your tweet read out on stream, of course, you can tweet at us. It's at Team Tespa, and then on Facebook /Team Tespa as well. And that's not, of course, the only way you can get the Dalaran card back. You can get it if you do go to the live finals, but you will get one if it is read out on stream. Let's have a look at the rest of the schedule then for today. You can see we've already been to the East region and the North region. We're going to continue on the North region now.
I feel
with
like
Queen's U versus Shawnee next up.
I always look at this and you talk about the regions. I feel like we're playing a game of Pokemon, going through the Tespa, the Tespa brackets. It's like next we're going to visit the North region where Queen's U take on Shawnee.
All the different regions we're going to visit today, but of course then we'll go to the South region, Victoria versus Duke and Florida versus Chapel Hill, and then we'll have 2 more games later on, but that is all of us done and dusted here for this 3rd game. So we'll be moving on to game number 4, so don't you go anywhere. We'll be back very soon.